I think it's time to move on to the fans and the boos and Conte. Like I say, I think this has been something that's been bubbling underneath the surface a little bit. I think he has not been delighted with the frequency of the halftime boos. Although, look, you know what I'm like. I think the fans have got every right to boo if they want, because they pay their money. And it's not cheap to go to a Tottenham Hotspur game at all. I do think you've got the right, if you want to voice your disapproval, to do so. Do I think it's helpful? No. But I don't think that takes away the right to be able to do that. And Conte was quite interesting yesterday, because obviously he was in the press conference, but I also listened to his Spurs play interview after the game. And there were a couple of, in that one and in his press conference, a couple of thinly veiled kind of ultimatums, threats, hints, whatever word you want to use, kind of almost saying like, if you don't get behind me, maybe I won't want to stick around. I just kind of felt that in what he was saying. Look, the halftime boos have become a familiar refrain. We're used to it in the press box. We know they're coming. The Spurs aren't winning at the break, pretty much. We know they're coming. We'll often kind of say, oh, like when you're looking like, oh, at a time, counting down, when the boos are coming, there's the boos. You know, some fans will claim it's for different things. Some will say it's for the officials. Some will say it's to do with a mistake that was made. Some will say it's to do with a lack of effort, whatever. Ultimately, it's the same noise. It's the same thing that happens at half time. Like I say, Spurs fans, all supporters, but especially I do think Spurs fans, pay a lot of money for a club, for tickets to watch a club that has not won anything in a long time. They really do. They're absolutely entitled to voice their disapproval, and 100% Spurs' first half showings on the whole this season have been far poorer than the second half showings. Spurs fans could maybe say, if the Spurs players are not showing the required intensity in the first half, then why should they? It's really awkward. It's like that chicken and the egg thing, isn't it? It's like, should the fans cheer on the team, or should the team give the fans something to cheer for? I'll tell you what, the best thing to do, I think, is to dive into Conte's quotes. Because, look, in an ideal world, everyone supports, there's no booing, there's no, it's not rocket science. If the fans are roaring on the team probably do play better. But then likewise, the fans need to kind of almost get something to make them want to roar. It is massively the chicken and the egg situation. So here's Conte's interview with Spurs player, which I thought was quite interesting. I think the fans played an important role in the second half. The fans have to understand that in every moment, especially in the difficult moments, they have to play with us. They have to understand that. I understand that the fans want to win and they want to win trophies. But at the same time, I have to be honest with the fans. We need to go through our process. And with our process, we need time and patience. I think the key line in all of that was, if we have the time and patience and we are all enthusiastic, then it will be good also to continue and do it in the future. He is pretty much, and I've checked kind of with a few people in the club just to check I was reading this right, and they agreed. He is kind of suggesting that if the fans back him and his team and give him a reason to want to stick around, he will do so. But if they kind of are showing that they don't really want what's happening, then, they might head off into the sunset, I guess. Some fans may want that. But I do feel like in his press conference, he went even stronger about the fact of how far he believes Spurs are right now, and it needs to kind of be a bit of a reality check. And look, no Spurs fan wants to hear that. No football fan wants to hear that. It isn't something that any fans want to hear. And for Spurs fans, they don't want to hear that they've got no chance of winning the title, even if they maybe believe that anyway. And they have needed to be very, very patient over decades now. But on the flip side, this is a statement that the likes of Poch used to come out with, Mourinho came out with. Before Conte said it, there was this kind of need to be, I guess, more realistic. And that was even coming from Poch when, let's be honest, he was actually fighting for that league title with Leicester and then Conte's Chelsea over back-to-back seasons. I think the question quite rightly needs to also be asked of, why have Spurs not pushed on since then? I think, a lot of issues with not being backed fully in the transfer market. I think a lot of issues of poor decisions being made off the pitch as well by the club's hierarchy, whether that be Daniel Levy, whether that be others on the board, I don't know. Obviously, Daniel Levy signs off on it all, so it must be. But yeah, when you look at it, I say that Poch is challenging for the title in 2 successive years, and then here we are, half a decade later, and Conte is saying they're nowhere near being able to do what they were doing then. Something's happened there. Why have they regressed to a point where they're not in that position? Look, he's not directly saying that, but he kind of is, like an indirect statement. It's a big thing, and I guess it's a challenge to the fans. And is it the best time to challenge the fans when they're in that kind of mood anyway? It's a difficult one. It is. I'd be intrigued to know. I'd love to know everyone's opinions in the comments. Please do let me know underneath. Where do you see it? Do you feel it's a bit of both, or do you feel that the fans need to have a bit more patience for this process that Conte is going through, or do you feel that Conte is being unfair? Is he asking for patience at a time when the fans have already shown more than enough over the years? It is a really fascinating situation, and look, I don't think there's any debate that Spurs have progressed under Conte. I don't. Trust me. Having to do these videos a year ago, the mess they were in, farcical summer with the managerial search, ending up with Nuno, who declared he was going to make the fans proud, and he didn't. And I do think Conte kind of has. He took Spurs into the Champions League again, just 7 months it took him to do that, into the top 4. And yes, they haven't clicked this season, particularly missing Kulusevski for those 11 games. But once again, he's got Spurs in the top 4. They're in the Champions League last 16. They topped their group. Whether it was, whether it was dominant and, the best possible way they could have done it or not, they still managed it. They got the job done. And I think he kind of made it clear early in the week as well that doesn't matter whether you're a guy that is used to winning everything like he is. You can't just parachute them in and expect them to kind of transform a team into something they're not, or not yet. And I think Mourinho said the same, to be fair. He was exactly the same. You can't just wave a magic wand over it all. Yeah. On the whole, he's getting results, I feel, despite some of the mixed performances. And I can only stress 1,000,000 times that January is going to be so key. It is. He said it 1,000,000 times now. Spurs know what they need to do in January. They know they need to make good signings. So that has to happen. If it doesn't, it's a huge failure on the club's part. Huge, huge failure. And there's only one direction that people can look.